job, yours.
I'm good.
All right.
Good.
Jimmy, take this away.
All right. Sounds great. All right. Thanks. Hey, has anybody gotten anything so far today? Feel like it's been a great day so far. Listen, we're just getting started too. This is an amazing group. We have got some of the best leaders in the entire network on this panel. That's why we brought everybody together to hear this panel, because we're going to go over some things. Obviously, we all know that the market has changed. So what we want to do is we want to hear from some of the best of what they're doing specifically in their markets and in their businesses to continue to see growth. So we're just going to kind of go down the line. Ben, if you don't mind, as you guys come on, just tell them who you are, what market you're in, a little bit about your business, and then what is it that you're doing kind of consistent right now to stay growing?
I'm Ben Bleicher, Berkshire Hathaway in Lincoln, Nebraska. Small team, we have 5 selling agents. We do 60 to 80 million a year. We do commercial, residential, and we just do a lot of prospecting, a lot of branding, stay in front of everybody nonstop. I mean, we want anybody who knows us, who thinks about real estate, we want us to pop up right away. So we're out there a lot.
So Ben, let's talk about what does that look like consistently, and from that standpoint, on a daily basis, is it daily prospecting? Is there a time block? Is it specific type of phone calls or visitation? What is it?
We try to block time every day. Whether it gets done or not is always a challenge, right? Especially when we're busy. But that is really important to block time for it. And just not to lose sight when you get busy, keep that funnel like very full in the top so it, equally comes out, not wavy.
That's great. What are y'all doing to fill the top of that funnel as far as that goes?
We do a lot of Zillow and Realtor.com.
Yeah.
We do a lot of marketing on social media. We make people register on our website to look at our listings. A lot, some proprietary, obviously, but again, we have a lot of different channels feeding it. The more the better, obviously.
It's good stuff. Mike.
Omaha, Nebraska. I think this is my 4th year in real estate.
Yeah.
Have a team now of about 18 people, I think. I'd have to check.
What kind of transactions and volume are y'all doing?
Last year we did close to 300 units, 104 million, I think, in volume.
Hey, did y'all hear that's 4 years? In 4 years, it's pretty amazing. So what are y'all doing to continue the growth as the market's changed?
We still do a lot of Zillow. We don't do a lot of Realtor. Kind of found a way to just market a little differently too. Same way I want not just people that don't know me, I want people that are in real estate to know who I am. Time blocking has kind of changed a little bit because the team's growing. So I tend to have to block more time to make sure that they're hitting their metrics that I need.
Yeah, it's great. And as far as those calls that you're making, are those specifically to those folks that have been on the website? Or they follow up with people? Is there a pattern to that, or what you prioritize?
Well, a lot of it, Zillow's probably, because I spend so much on it, is probably a huge priority, because if you do it right, you get bonuses every month.
Right.
So I need to make sure that all those metrics are hit so we can hit the right bonuses.
It's good. It's good. Kelly.
Kelly Bamer. I'm not on. I'm Kelly Bamer. I'm in St. Louis market. A team of 8, 5 selling agents, 3 admin. Last year we did about 400 units and 200 million in volume. We are, definitely seeing a shift in the market, and what we're doing to work through that is just making sure that we are stepping up our level of service every day to our current clients. The best way we can grow the business is by having satisfied clients that we're currently working with. So simple things like just over communicating, picking up the phone on a regular basis, not relying on text messages and emails, making a lot of just strong connections with the client, keeping them informed, and really using our experience. We're very different than like Mike, we've been in the business a long time. We have a lot of experience on our team. All of our agents on our team have been through 2008. We were all in the business before then. We know what that time was like, and we worked through that, and we're using that experience of knowing the indicators in the market, looking at the signs, seeing what's happening, and we're talking about that openly with clients. We're not hiding from them that these things are happening, and here's the things that we're seeing, and here's how we're going to work through those. And also talking with them about the changes and the shifts that we're making as a result of what's happening in the market.
Kelly, are y'all doing, it's mostly phone calls, but are y'all doing some type of content to keep people up to date? Or what are you doing as far as like your communication with that database?
Well, we have a lot of conversations. About 85% of our business, although we invest in Zillow and heavily, and we play in the sandbox with them. You know, they're the bully in the schoolyard, but we play with them nice because you need them on your side. But we focus on the people that we know. I mean, that's really where our energies are happening, and we definitely want to be recognized as the expert. And so we have quality conversations. We talk about the market. We talk about the things that we're experiencing. So we're trying to give them content that's valuable and intrigues them to want to know a little bit more so they continue to engage in the conversation.
Yeah, that's good. Really good stuff. Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Cosby from Connecticut. I run a 15-person real estate team. I have the label of being the commercial person in Berkshire Hathaway, but we ranked 3rd last year in commercial, and for mid-sized teams, we actually came in top 20. So I have to dispel that. We do sell single families and duplexes and triplexes and good stuff like that. So the way we're moving with the market is each agent is working their sphere of single family home buyers. Then we're still working our investors. And then my big thing is that we have buckets of business. So for the last 23 years, I've never priced myself out of any bucket of business. So whether it's a residential rental, if it's a 2-family, a single family, an 80-unit apartment building, like we don't say no to the business, and we know what we're doing with each asset class, but I don't think that you can put yourself out of a bucket. So I think the best example, 2015, excuse me, in our market, the 1 million plus was like a huge market. So all my competition was like, we're not selling 5s, 6s, 3s, 2s, they're out. They were giving me referrals from other companies for free, and then when the market shifted, they were left with nothing, holding nothing. And we have now built that business, and we have currently 110 singles, 2s, and 3s, and 4s by one person because we didn't price ourselves out of a bucket. So I think you have to monitor your buckets and see where the market is moving. I'm stretching my own business right now to work with investors who own schools that are closed, churches, office buildings that can be converted to apartments. So I'm like stretching and aligning myself and educating myself about how I can convert these buildings with these people to apartment buildings. So I myself have to grow my business after 23 years and get some new experience and see where I can position myself to still be successful and relevant in today's market.
See, that's such a great point. Lisa is a perfect example of not resting and continuously growing, learning new things, and expanding your market. Talk to me a little bit about what that communication looks like. You mentioned just focusing on those past clients and those things. What does that look like for y'all? Is it mostly phone calls, or what does that look like?
So our database is 12,000 people. So we send an email blast out every morning at 6 a.m. with the best investment opportunity, or what we think is the best investment opportunity. So it's one of our listings, or it's an MLS listing, or an off-market listing, and so that will hit all 12,000 people every single morning at 6 a.m.
So good.
So the gentleman that interviewed me in March for 3 big commercial apartment buildings, he was on that list for 7 years. I never sold him anything. He did buy one of my listings like 5 years ago, but like I was not representing him. I was a listing agent. He called me, I interviewed, got the listings, and then he said to me, P.S., do you do singles, 2s, 3s, and 4s? And I'm like, of course I do. So now with all the other agents in the business, I now have his residential business as well. So that's going to position us to grow our market share. I've had to get back to my roots. I have to get back to where I started with FHA loans. Like, I didn't know an FHA loan. I mean, I know what it is, but I didn't realize the blood, sweat, and tears associated with trying to get one of these things across the finish line. Like, seriously, like the inspections that come in bring me to tears. The appraisals bring me to tears. And educating this gentleman, Shmulek, I'm like, listen, you aren't going to get a loan on it if we don't fix these things. Like, it's not a choice, but I also had to like figure out how to be eloquent with him so he understood that we need to work with who the buyers are on the market right now, and with the lack of inventory for FHA buyers in Connecticut, we have to figure out how to make it a win-win and get across the finish line with that. So I've had a completely self-sufficiency test. I had no idea what that was 2 months ago. I'm like, what is that? And then aligning myself with lenders for my team so we can understand how we can deal with self-sufficiency barriers, because the rents aren't where they should be. A lot of them are below market. So I have to, again, re-educate myself, get people in to come to my team meetings and educate my team about what these definitions are and how we work with lenders. I mean, and not to be like whatever, but the lender called and said, get your rents off the MLS sheets. And then you send your intern who can't talk about real estate, and then they have to use market rents, and that's how we're getting our deals across the finish line, because the rents don't support the mortgages, but the buyers want the property and they're willing and they have the money to do it. So it's like one of these funny things where I'm like, oh my gosh, like, can you do that? Is that legal? You know, I talked to my office manager, she's like, yeah, you're just taking the rents off the MLS sheet. So there's all these things I'm learning in the residential end to keep relevant with the changing market.
Yeah, I tell you, Lisa mentioned this, and Lisa, this is so brilliant, where she's getting the best opportunity or investment property that she sees every single day out to that group of investors. One thing I would say is I had an agent that was doing some, and he's like, well, I've only got about 5 people that are there, but I'm trying to grow this. And I said, listen, one's better than none. They don't know that you're not sending it to 12,000 people. Start the consistency, and they will begin to share it. I'm sure your database is grown by people that were like, oh, I've got this friend. Can you add them to the list as well?
So what we have started doing, I can't remember who suggested this to me. Oh, it was one of my sellers. He's so smart, like so eloquent. He's a doctor. I'm like, he puts me to shame. He's like, Lisa, he's like, why don't you have a QR code at the bottom of all your marketing and say, would you like to receive, you know, more, whatever it is, whatever he put in that email to me, I copy and pasted it verbatim, plagiarized it, stuck it on top of the QR code, and now I've got tons of people adding to my database that I would not have had.
Yeah, such a great point. If you are sending out to your database, make sure you've got something that has a little tab there that automatically would go ahead and do that, because a lot of people are sharing this with friends, and if you just say, if you've received this from someone and you'd like to receive it on a consistent basis, click here, and it'll capture them, and you'll grow your database that way as well. It's so good.
Well, I think you can also do it on social media, which I'm not.
Yes, you can.
I'm not relevant in social media, and I need to be.
Yes.
But that's what he said. He's like, all these people that are looking at it are going to see it, and they're going to add. And then the other thing that we're doing on our blast is we changed this in the last 2 weeks. We're putting our investor questionnaire at the top. So the first thing you see is, please update your investment strategy. So now whomever the person is attached to in the database, they're now getting their updated investment strategies. They can reach right out to them. So it's another way of, like, instead of having to call or relying on them to respond to the email, now they're getting invited to fill out their investment strategy. So again, now everyone on the team can just call the people and make sure that they're getting their updates.
So good. Melissa.
Why y'all put me with these impressive people?
Well, first
I'm
thing.
gonna be your wild card.
I know. I know. If you can hold that up a little bit, because
Can you hear it now?
Because I'm gonna tell you right now, I listened to Melissa speak about 2 weeks ago, and it was so good. So I'm so excited.
Well,
Tell
you're
us a little
sweet.
bit about your business and where you're located also.
So I'm in Greensboro, North Carolina. Has anybody been there or seen it except the people from Greensboro?
Yes.
So I've been there for a long time doing real estate, and I'm an independent agent, so I don't have a team. When I met Kelly, she said that's probably a good idea. I wouldn't be good at having a team. I certainly don't want to manage it if I ever do have one. But no, so I'm an independent agent. I have a support team of, it varies. Like, I just lost my main one, so it goes anywhere from probably 0 to 6, depending on what our business is like. And last year we did 192 transactions and about 80 million-ish, which I
That's
don't
all right.
really. That makes me tired. I'm exhausted just saying that. But no, it's But you know, ask me a question, I'll answer it.
So let's do this. So let's talk about. I mean, obviously, with doing that much, you're spinning a lot of plates.
Yeah.
You know, and we got a lot of people that are single agents here, or that are team leaders that are selling as well. How do you continuously stay consistent with your prospecting and following up with everything you have going on?
That's a great question. So what I treat my job as more of a service. So I feel like my mother, and I love the fact that I've heard these panels, and so many people are generational realtors or have family.
Yeah.
And that's so cool, because I certainly did. And my mother always told us, you know, what you do is a service, but you better learn how to sell the city. So what I did is I just tried to brand myself as the expert, of course, in the market, which everyone tries to do. But I've started doing, and I never watch videos. I heard someone in a breakout say that. I can do videos because I never watch them. But I do them in my car, touring people around Greensboro, and I have cameras on the hood, and someone's sitting with me. It's really kind of like it's a good friend of mine, and the outtakes when I retire will be worth a lot of money, I'm sure. But no, that's something cool you can do, and we send it to HR people, companies that are interviewing. It's great for people who are coming who haven't, their spouse can't come with them. And so I put those on my YouTube. Those are the kind of things we've tried to do differently. But I appreciate what you said, because I think you have to stay relevant and do things differently every single day. I learn a lot from new agents. I learn a lot from just seeing these things are, I mean, this is my favorite. Where's Vince? This is my favorite.
Yeah.
But I think the energy and everything, you pick up so much from everything you do. But no, and I just feel like you've got to show up every day. That's what I do. I mean, there's no magic to it. I do care about my clients. I do the best I can, and I'm not perfect, and I have to sometimes lead with that. But they know I care, and I feel like that's basically what it is. And I have a really big passion for what I do. And what I learned most recently Sunday when my top person left is you have to have a passion to do it. And the administrative people and your support people, they're not going to love it like you do, or else they'd be doing it too. So, and I mean, but, that's the thing that really drives me, is just the passion for doing it.
Hey, what was that again? You said your mom told you about
Well, she just yeah, she said your home is the most, she says, you know how important our home is to us. That's where we have our best times. That's where you go when the world's not good and you need a sanctuary. That's a service. It's not a sales job. You're providing someone a service. She said, but learn how to sell the city, because you're going to need to know how to do that.
Yeah.
So that's what I always think. And I do believe it. I realize that my home, I mean, sometimes I'll have the worst day and I just want to get home with my dog and not talk to anyone, although that rarely happens because I am a talker a little bit. But no, I mean, I just think and so my tagline even is home means everything. I thought it was kind of cheesy when they did it, but then you just realize that it really does mean everything to most families and most people. So.
Right. Yeah, that's good. Ben, let's come back to you. What's really kind of been working different? What's maybe one strategy that is maybe the best strategy you're doing right now in this market environment to help your business continue to grow?
Oh, it's a tough one. I would say the best strategy that we have right now, good Lord. Gosh, I really don't know one specific. I would say it's just the art of following up.
Right.
That is the thing that gets dropped the most, is people just don't answer their phone, don't respond back in a timely manner, and then don't follow up. And so we do a lot of accountability stuff every week to make sure that leads are being followed up with, things like that. Not letting things just kind of fall off the plate is the biggest thing we're doing, I think, because people are distracted. They're concerned. There's a lot going on right now. You have to help them focus and, stay on track with that kind of stuff.
Hey, talk to me a little bit more about kind of the service side of what you guys do, and maybe even concierge, if you're doing anything along those lines, or what you're doing to set yourselves apart.
We are competing against the boutique guys and the discount brokers and things by offering just the service people deserve, I guess, and kind of forgot about the last 3 years. I mean, a dog could sell a house in 2020. Now we're kind of getting back to where it's not going to be that easy again. And so the services, just everything's coming back. Open houses, actually marketing things and not just putting them on Facebook, but spending money to get them out there. Agent opens, higher level stuff that some of these guys that came in the last 3 years don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
They have no idea. They never experienced it.
Right.
So we just have to kind of get back to our roots. I've been doing it for about 10 years. And so I didn't see 08, but I did see, 2014, 15 when things were very slow, and we're getting back there.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's circling back, and that service side of, I think it's important for all of us to ask ourselves, how are we setting ourselves apart from the competition? And the service side is, I mean, to be perfectly frank, our industry makes it easy for you to stand out. Just follow up, do the right things, and everything comes from those things. So, Mike, you want to anything in particular that you're doing right now, or that's standing out as far as a strategy that's different?
From a team perspective, in this market, I'm actually trying to grow versus consolidate. I did cut some of my spending, but I am in the mindset, I think Vince and I have had this talk, it's actually the time to grow, be ready. Trying to prepare for the next thing. I don't think we really know what the next thing is. It's going to be something we don't know about, so we got to be able to turn. I also need to focus on, I see a huge improvement this year of agents that have been around and have been constantly touching their past clients, and my past clients aren't really ready yet. So I'm trying to figure out ways to get in front of other people to make them new clients. So a lot of that's just kind of through marketing, things like events, like something little simple, like even just a keychain that has our QR code. We send it out to we'll send an email out like, hey, check your QR code, we're having an event. And then they already register so you know who's coming, or they can take it to a couple different places around town. Like I think, what was it, last month, you could go get golf balls. Others like bunk cakes. But it doesn't matter. As soon as they scan it and click, they're already captured anyway.
Yeah, that's good. Tell me a little bit, obviously, lead generation, it seems like it's changing some. Is there anything y'all have done or changed as far as how you're generating leads or how you're following up with leads maybe as we've come out of the pandemic?
Definitely following up more. That was one thing I noticed. Like it came, everyone was hot. We're in a hot team. Like I said, a dog could sell, so I got lucky, got in at the right time. And I watched it kind of decrease when we weren't doing the follow-ups the way we were supposed to. And then also, like, I'm on the Zillow Agent Advisory Board, so I get to go out there and meet with some, top 20 agents in the country. And most of these guys have teams of like 150. What I saw through a lot of that, though, is a lot of them tended to forget about that follow-up in those past clients because they're so busy concentrated on their growth because they're getting so many leads in. So I'm trying to make sure that as I continue to grow, that doesn't get dropped.
Yeah, that's great. Kelly, anything in particular y'all are doing right now that's really popping off?
Yeah, we, in the last 8 months, put together a really quality accountability plan with our team and the members on our team. And I think we've always held people accountable, but we put in some new plans and procedures and some weekly checkpoints and reports and types of things that we have been so impressed with the outcome for sure. And we always share numbers openly with the team in terms of production, in terms of expenses, all kinds of things. We're very transparent with our team. But to be able to put a new plan in place, execute it, and then to be able to look 6 and 8 months later and show the results of that has been tremendous for the team. And I think also as a team leader, I personally have never had a problem holding myself accountable. That's never been an issue for me. However, when we put these new plans in place, I feel like even I'm holding myself to a whole different level of accountability because you feel the need to do that because you're expecting that from other people. And I think the other thing is it's scary to think about that sometimes. Oh, are people gonna, push back and what's the response gonna be? But what we've actually found is our team has embraced the increased level of accountability. We actually had, when we first talked about doing it and brainstormed with them of ways that we'd like to hold them accountable, one team member actually looked and said, I want you to hold me accountable. I want you to do this. And so, don't be scared to take that step and increase the level of accountability with your team.
Yeah, isn't it amazing? The old saying, what we inspect, we can expect to get better. And my personal experience has been that the top producers, the best agents, they search out that accountability. And the ones that are hesitant to it, it may be the thing that needs to happen to get them uncomfortable to maybe see if something else happens there. Let's talk a little bit about obviously y'all do a lot of, with the amount of business that you do, is there something you focus in as far as loyalty and, adjusting some of the things that are in the market to some of the people as far as building like a loyalty program or working with people to kind of create that sense of loyalty?
Yeah, we, once again, are just blessed to have an extremely loyal client base. And I think that we've really realized that the online leads and that's all great, right? You get those opportunities that come in, but the nucleus of your business is the people who already know you, like you, trust you, want to do business with you, and have had a great experience with you. Those are going to be the people who continue to refer you and that you're always going to be top of mind. So you have to love on them all the time. You have to let them know how much you appreciate them. You have to, thank them for every referral. You have to think of them, every holiday, pick up the phone and just say hello and let them know that, if you want them to think about you, you have to think about them. And,
right.
And I think that's something that we oftentimes forget. So we've also had a lot of luck, especially in the last 18 months with our farming efforts. We are getting tremendous results out of our farm neighborhoods, and that's because of a lot of work. We have done a lot of work in those areas, hosted some great events, brought a lot of pieces of value, and those types of things are going to pay dividends. Even just in my own neighborhood, which we farm heavily, there's a situation that I figured out last week through a closing that the Homeowners Association has been charging people an amount that they never should have been charging at closing. Something came up on a closing statement for one of our customers. And I just went on the Facebook page, and I don't bash the homeowners association because that gets ugly, but I just said, hey, this has happened. You might have been affected by this if you bought a home in this neighborhood in the past 2 years, and if you want to know if you're owed a refund, let me know. My phone just started ringing off the hook, and somebody commented on the Facebook page, why would anybody buy a house in this neighborhood and not use you? You know?
Yeah, that's great.
And it was a nice compliment, and I didn't post that to get business from other people, but you do those types of things, you bring awareness to those, and it will pay you back.
Yeah, let's talk about this, Kelly, because I think there's a lot of people that maybe are doing geographical farming or they want to do more. Tell us about that process for you. I think everybody just focuses in on just the direct mail piece. What is it? What does that look like? And then what are you doing additionally on that side?
So we do a lot of direct mail to our farm. Definitely things like we're St. Louis Blues Cardinal schedules and St. Louis Cardinals baseball schedules, and all the different types of touch points that you mail out. But when we send our just sold cards or something in the neighborhood, we even have a whole different flair on the ones that are going to our farm neighborhoods. They don't cost you anymore. You just have to put a little bit more effort into it to do something a little different there. And we host great events. We host a lot of great events in our neighborhoods that attract people, and they appeal to a very diverse audience. So not just one type of thing that's going to appeal to just people with families or just older people, but we try to really diversify the events to appeal to everybody. Our events are heavily attended, and it keeps you top of mind with them.
So what would an example of one of those events look like, and how do you let the people in the neighborhood know about the event?
So other than your standard block parties and things like that, I mean, one of our most successful events is we personally deliver pizzas to everybody's house who orders a pizza on Halloween. So
That's
they don't
awesome.
have to do dinner for their family. So we have a QR code that they scan. We actually door hang in the neighborhood prior to Halloween. It's a little bag with candy. It's got a flyer about pizzas, has a QR code. They scan it. It goes to a Google form. They submit their order for pizzas that night. We know exactly how many we can take. We work out a deal on pricing from a local pizza place. We pick them up. We pick up 50 pizzas an hour or whatever we need to do. We have a map. We route them out. One of us drives, one of us hops out. We put pizzas on their doors. They know that they're getting pizzas at their house if they ordered, either between 4 and 5 or 5 and 6. And then they're shocked when we show up. They think Papa John's is coming to their house. They're like, oh, you're here. Now they know because we've been doing it for several years. But that first year, people had their tips ready and everything. They thought Papa John's was going to be there. But we deliver the pizzas. We, try to take that stress out of it. And then it's so nice because it's the neighborhood I live in. So later on at my house, when you're handing out candy to the kids, all the kids are like, thanks for the pizzas. And
That's great.
but it's value to them, right? They didn't have to worry about dinner that night. They could help their kids get their costumes on or whatever. And that's been a hugely successful event for us.
What do you do marketing-wise on the pizza box, or anything do you pass out with it?
Oh yeah, they're all labeled. They all got a label.
Yeah.
Happy Halloween, courtesy of the Bamer team.
Yeah.
And to keep that. But a lot of the marketing is in the door hanger that goes out a couple weeks before that. But yeah, those boxes are labeled. They are.
Yeah, that's so good. Listen, you're doing these things additionally. Are there any other types of events besides that you've been doing? As far as you mentioned, block party. What does a typical block party look like?
Yeah, so we have a block party next weekend. We'll have a golf cart and bike parade, work out with the police to block off the streets in the neighborhood. Starts with a golf cart and bike parade, goes up to the pool. We have a pool, community pool, so parking lot. It's going to have a big tent, like the big venue tents you get for a wedding. A band, a bubble bus, a face painter, a balloon artist, an ice cream truck. Truly something for everybody, and it's just a couple hour event for people to come and join. It's all, complimentary.
Do you pay for it, or do you have vendors that help you with it?
We don't. We've never partnered with a vendor to pay for anything.
That's
We
great.
pay for it ourselves. I know there's a lot of benefits to doing that, but there's also, a lot of just too much red tape for us.
Right.
We're just, do it ourselves.
Yeah.
We'd like to have the control over everything that's happening and how it's happening.
It's really good, really good. Lisa, anything you're doing right now that's a little different, or maybe that's kind of popping off a little bit more than it has in the past?
For me as a team leader, I am co-listing on all of my listings now. So as I was building my team, I thought I was going to move away from the sales piece of it. And I've heard the different, feedback on what I'm doing, but I've just decided that I pride myself in my relationships, and I do feel I love my team, but I do think that my service, I'm still trying to train them to get.
It's great.
So I want to stay in it. I want to keep my connections. So I brought in on all my listings a co-listing agent. So the piece of that is, if you show up, I see you, I see that you're doing the work, and I'll bring you in, and the reward is that you get to be a co-listing agent, and then they'll handle a lot of the upfront. I'll negotiate, the sales, the inspections, appraisals, things like that. But I think it gives them ownership, and the people they've brought in have all been less than 1 year in the business because they were showing up and they were hungry and they wanted to do it, they wanted to learn. So one of my co-listing agents is 19 years old and he's at UConn, but he showed up as a summer intern, got his license in 30 days, and now he's got 8 co-lists, and he called me this morning, he's like, here's my update.
Yeah.
And my other co-lists are giving me updates and they're really great, but this kid is like showing me that he's got what it takes and he's going back to school in 2 weeks. And he's like, I have to have all these listings under deposit with you, and how do I get there? What do I need to do? And so I think empowering them to show them what it's like to be a listing agent is huge, because if they can get the taste of what it's like to be a listing agent versus a buyer's agent, then you can get to choose like what you prefer. And some people prefer being buyer's agents, but if you prefer being a listing agent, at least they're getting their feet wet now, and I can train them. And with this one seller, I sent them in yesterday without me, and I said, I want the ugliest pictures of the property, not to be mean, but I'm like, I want showing requests, feedback, and then I want you to show me reasons that we need to have a price reduction on most of these investment properties. It's mold, it's ceilings are falling out, whatever it is. I'm like, create a story on why we need to get a price reduction. And a 19-year-old, and then Chantel went in yesterday, and they got me 45 price reductions while I was here. Like, way better than me having to go back on Thursday and sit with him and say, I need to get all these price reductions. But now that's a strategy I've never done before, but he needs to see with his mind's eye, like, this is what the properties are. Inflation's up, right? Like, the market is gonna shift. Like, the rates are up. Like, if we don't have offers on your properties in 14 to 21 days, like, it's all about price, it's all about location. So I've been doing that with my team to try to empower them.
So when you're talking about the price reductions, is that done in person? Is that a story, like you said, where it's bullet pointed and sent to them, or how is that done?
So with this particular owner, I ask for the meetings. A lot of times I never even meet my clients, being in the investment side, just because they really don't want to meet with me.
Right.
With this particular owner, I invite myself to his office, and I said, are you available on Monday? He said, yes, I'll be there at 3 o'clock. I said, great. So I sent 2 of my team down. I had them print. I don't like to not be green, but he is like, what's that shiny thing over there?
Right. Yeah.
Let me look at my cell phone, and it's
Yeah.
like, Shmulik, look at me in the eyes.
Yeah.
Like, are you seeing these pictures? And I'm like, it's not to hurt his feelings, but I'm like, how could you possibly know what 600 properties are like? Like, I'm like, you got to use psychology to be like, oh, I'm sure you don't visit all your properties every month, so this is what is happening at this particular property. What do you think about a price reduction? And then it's like, it goes just like a dominoes, boom, 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 boom. And last night I had 45, 50 price reductions in my text message. So it's, trying to figure out how to, I don't want to lose the listings. And there's like, when he gave us the opportunity to list the properties, I mean, it comes back to value proposition too. There are so many discount agents in our market. He had given us a couple listings, and he interviewed, I guess, 5 others, and he gave each of them 5, gave me 20. And then he's like, well, at least I'm giving everyone 3%. I'm like, I don't work for 3%. I'm like, so if that's the case, you're gonna have to give 600 listings to somebody else. I said, but watch what happens with the negotiations and the power of someone to be able to negotiate your inspection issues, your FHA appraisal issues, ... So I did ruffle feathers with the other agents, but you have to stand up for yourself and show the value. And so I don't think anyone else is printing hardcore pictures of cruddy things happening at the properties. And they're like, oh, we'll show it on the screen. I'm like, no, you're not. Because he's going to sit on there, start playing with his phone. He's going to see the shiny thing, say there's a squirrel, and you're not going to get any price reductions.
Yes.
And they nailed it. And again, these are 2 agents less than a year in the business, and they were like, Lisa, we learned something so valuable. And I'm like, I've never done that before.
Right.
So again, how do I separate myself to provide world-class service for him and for my team?
Lisa, it's so true. I think the more that I spend time with newer agents, younger agents, that energy feeds me as well. Just to your point, we've got a younger guy that's been in the business. He was in college for 2 years. He shot videography for me. Came into the business 23 years old. He sells $16 million his first year, and it was just because he didn't have bad habits. And when Hunter would tell him something, when I would tell him something, he would go do it. And I think that energy helps all of us too that have been around a little while. So I would just encourage you. Listen, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just me. I'm just getting older and it's different. But I get as much juice out of helping someone young like that. And I would encourage you, as I mentioned earlier this morning, involving other people in your business and teaching the business actually sharpens you as well. And so you want to add to that a little bit?
Well, I do. Again, today, like, I knew I was going to be here for 3 days, right? So I'm like, what? I don't want dust to fall underneath my feet. So I brought in one of the girls and I said, all right, we've got development projects we can do. So I've never been drone. I've never done professional photography. Like, I don't know if Sherry's here, but she knows I used to run my business she's sitting in my seat, on a shoestring and a bootstrap. Like, I didn't invest in my business, and not intentionally, but because we are investment brokers and we use LoopNet, it's just a feed of leads. I just lost my brain thought. Oh, yeah. So I've never used drones, professional photographer. So I said, all right, how am I going to get this school to sell for top dollar? I have to either, like, position it as a rehab for a single family. So I send Molly there today with a photographer to do floor plans, to virtually stage a gutted out school, graffiti, bird poop, like whatever. So she texted me right before I came up here and she's like, what about a wedding venue? And P.S., the town is going to want that way more than someone putting condos in. The town will never let 45 houses go on the property. So I'm like, you just did it, like winner, winner, chicken dinner, and we're gonna have this beautiful presentation that I can now go on a listing appointment. So she just did all the work, right? I'll pay for the drone and photography and all that good stuff, and we'll go do a presentation for the board and get the listing. So I'm doing the same thing at an old barn. I'm doing the same thing at the 20-story office building in Hartford. So again, it's just, they have ideas, like young people, and I can't even say young. Chantel retired from Travelers at 52 and started her career, but she's got the same hunger.
Yes.
So it's someone that has a purpose and a passion that wants to do the business, and being able to, like, kind of locate those people in my team, and Sherry knows this as well. I don't want to be the biggest team. I want to be the best team with world-class service. So we're skinning down the team on August 31st. They don't know it. But, like, you know, when your agents tell you, like, oh, you don't see me. I don't see you because you physically don't come in.
Right.
Right, A.
Exactly.
And B, how do you want to be seen?
Yeah. That's good.
Right? Like, what
It's
you
really
put
good.
into your
Yeah,
business
right.
is how someone's going to see you.
Right. Yeah. And we're not going to release this before the 31st, so it's not a big surprise for you. Just so we know. No, that's good stuff, Lisa. No, that's really.
They won't even realize they're
That's right.
released.
Well,
That's how, like,
here's the thing is the reason they're leaving is because they won't watch something like this.
Correct.
So we don't have to worry
Correct.
about it.
I know
so-
who's hearting my pictures that I'm sending right
That's
now.
right. That's right. Melissa, what's popping off for you right now? Anything that's a little different that you're
Well,
doing?
ironically, I'm working with newer agents now too, because I believe I'm at a crossroads. So being an independent agent for this long is hard, and I know that I've gotten to a point where I think maybe I've got to do a team. I don't want to manage it. I don't want to have anything to do with it. At the other thing, I said I want an AI team of robots, and I can just.
That's right. Yes.
And that's
Yes.
fine.
Yeah.
That would actually be perfect for me.
Yeah.
So ironically, and I love it because you use Chick-fil-A. I've heard you speak a couple of times and you use them. So I've had 2 people who work for Chick-fil-A come interview with
Ooh,
me.
that's good.
And I hire them immediately
Yeah.
because they stress customer service. And one's 19, the other's 21. So this really.
Wait, my intern's from Chick-fil-A.
Are you
Yes.
see?
He works there on Saturdays.
Oh, it's
Yeah, so
amazing.
good. Yeah.
It is get his friends. I
Yeah.
mean, it's amazing. I mean, plus get him to bring the chicken too, because that's good.
That's good.
But I mean, no, but they're amazing. They're mature
Yeah.
and they dress well and they're professional, and they come in and they care about people, and they're all act older than they are. And I mean, so I waited tables before I did this, so it's really close to my heart anyway. But no, that's what I'm doing. So I've got 2 young people that I hired since I lost my main one. I'm going to let them I want to mentor them. They're going to be buyers, help me with whatever. I don't want employees anymore because legally that's a little bit awful for me. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to get where I can just, have them be agents, but, do independent contractor. That's the thing. So really I was excited to hear what you're saying because I'm experiencing the same thing. But it's always too, you just got to be willing to learn from younger people because they're going to come out they can come in with new ideas, but they need your guidance a little bit. I think it's a win-win if you combine the old school with the new.
Hey, and I'm drawing a total blank. I think I sent it to maybe Andrew or somebody. There was an interview this past week that I saw where Tony Robbins interviewed. It's not Truett, Kathy, but what's the son's name that runs Chick-fil-A? Anyway, the chairman. Anyway, if you look up Chick-fil-A reveals the leadership recipe or whatever for success. And that interview, he talked about the fact that they always view that you can't have success without succession. And so it is, who is it that you're bringing in that's, you feel like you're teaching them, but I'll tell you what's always happened. I used to think, I'll be glad to help them. and I end up getting helped more by trying to serve them and teach them. They teach me as well. And so from that standpoint, if you go look that up, it's a great interview that really goes into what their mentality is and some of those things that they do to really develop those young leaders. So,
But I tell them we're not closed on Sunday.
that's exactly
We're not closed on Sunday.
That's
At
right.
all.
I know. No, you're not doing those deals you're doing with that way. Let's go into some of the technology tools. Maybe anything. Is there a specific tool that you're using right now, Ben, that maybe that's a little different or that you're utilizing to a high level, or that you couldn't do without?
I think that, and we use this obviously, but you have to have a good CRM that's tied to a good web platform.
Right.
And that, I could get very deep into it, but I won't.
Yeah.
We don't have enough time. But I mean, when you're talking about SEO and all this stuff, your website can either help or hinder you, depending how it's set up. And the CRM part, you just have to keep track of things in your clients. Their birthdays, last time you talked to them, what they bought, what they've sold. If you don't have a good CRM that's catching all the data, you're doing it wrong,
Yeah.
period. I mean, there's not another way to say it. You have to have a good CRM, and you have to use it and make your team use it.
Yeah.
And then some level of accountability. We do it weekly. We meet with our guys every week and say, well, we go over leads, but we also look into their CRM and make sure they're putting new clients they meet in there, getting all the data. Birthdays aren't a huge deal, but it's good to call somebody on their birthday.
Yeah.
It's special. It'll make them stand out. But again, you have to have a good database to keep it in, so you need a good CRM that is. And I won't mention a good CRM. Everybody has a different one, but you need to try a few out and find one that kind of clicks with you and goes with the other technology that you guys employ.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really good advice. From that standpoint, some of those tools, the CRM really is the foundation of your business. It is literally, if you're not utilizing one, this is the opportunity to really to lean into that now and continue to build that, because that's going to be your foundation. It's going to help you grow into the future. So, Mike, anything else you want to add as far as a tool or technology?
New tool I started using is called CallRail. I don't know if
What is it again?
CallRail.
CallRail.
So
okay.
now all of my advertisements have a different phone number, and if anyone calls it, it gets routed to people on my team. It helps me track my ROI on marketing
That's
a
good.
little bit better.
That's
So
really good.
Then I kind of know where it's coming from, and then plus once they call, it's recorded. You can go back. It has a transcript, so if there's a phone call, they can always go back and listen. I can go back and listen. I can even set it up so it will automatically run it through, and there's always 3 specific questions I want them to ask. The whole purpose is try to get face-to-face with them, and so then it will just automatically send me a message like, that wasn't asked in this call, things like that. So,
Really?
yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. It's what is it? One more time?
CallRail.
CallRail. CallRail is what that is. That's really, really good. Kelly?
So one of the things we definitely see coming in the changing market is more inspection negotiation, because for so many years people were waiving inspections or not asking for repairs. So we are using an app, and there's a lot of different ones, but one that we're using is called Boards. I know some people use Trello and some other ones, but so I was introduced to Boards, and we have gone in and set up a board for all the different common inspection things that come up, like a new roof, a radon mitigation system, whatever those are. And so we'll have like a board for roof replacement, and on there we have the verbiage that we want the agents to use when you're negotiating a roof replacement, or the verbiage we want you to use when you're negotiating radon mitigation or whatever, so that it covers all the aspects that you need to include in your inspection verbiage. We have a great team, and they're really good at selling. They're not always really good at writing. That's not their forte. So by us and we're really noting things like when we get an inspection request and we're like, wow, that was really well written, put that on the board.
That's
Great.
great.
So and I think it's having that, and it's an app, and you just go to it, and I click, and I need that verbiage for a roof replacement, and it's at your fingertips, and we can make sure that our agents are being thorough with the wording that they're using in negotiation.
What's the name of it again?
Boards.
Boards. Okay,
Yep.
great. Really good. Lisa?
I'm not technology. You don't want to talk to me. But Chick-fil-A intern, once again, went and made a TikTok account for myself, which I haven't seen it yet. But he posted, I think, for the last 2 weeks and has thousands and thousands of followers, so I have no idea.
Yes.
So we do have to become relevant, but what I know is that I need to get support and figure it out. So I'm not ashamed to admit that we don't have that kind of presence.
Lisa,
So-
you will kill on TikTok. Serious. I mean, you will kill on TikTok. And I think sometimes what we think about is I know, I just made you uncomfortable, didn't I? That's great. But listen, I would encourage you. Yeah, and listen, just like she said she was not comfortable with that, find those people that are and include them in those things. So that's great. Yeah, and listen, I will say this. As we talk about tools and technology, all of these things should be doing one thing. They should be giving you more opportunities to have conversations where you're adding value to your client base. Don't get it. There's no easy button in this business. We had this old guy in Louisiana, and Melissa, I'm going to come to you. We had this guy, we were having this great dinner. Doug Edrington, who's been here before, he and I and another agent that was from Louisiana, they had come down to the beach. We'd had this great dinner, and he had this other guy with him who ran an insurance company in South Louisiana, old Cajun guy. And he was sitting there just listening to us and all this. And he got done, he said, boys, let me tell y'all something. And it was like E.F. Hutton. Everybody's like, what? He's going to say something. He says, let me show you all this right here. You said, you see this right here? He said, here's what I tell my couple hundred agents. This right here, that phone sitting like that, that's broke. That's rich. Broke, rich. You choose. Is it going to be here or there? Because either way, you're going to have those results that you're thinking about. Melissa, what's working for you right now? Any kind of specific technology?
Yeah, I revamped my social media. Of course, I pay people to do that. I don't understand how it works at all, but I just do what they say. But I think a good point is you can like my TikTok account that I don't use and I'll like yours. Because I think you have to do what's authentic to you.
Yes.
And if I did a TikTok video, I would feel ridiculous. And I might be not thinking outside the box, but I have the account because I want to be relevant, but I don't do anything with it. But I think there are things I do that feel more comfortable to me. So I think that's a tip for anyone is it's okay if you don't do everything that everyone's doing, right, because sometimes it shows when you're not comfortable. I always want to feel like I'm authentic and I'm comfortable in my skin, and yeah, I'm not sure I could do a TikTok, but I have an account who like it.
That's right. Lisa, yeah.
I think what my concern is that if I don't stay relevant in the social media thing and jump on the bandwagon, it's going to be doing a disservice to my team. So that's my stressor right now. Like, I know I have to do something with it.
That's great.
So otherwise, if I ever want to retire,
yeah, if
I don't stay relevant with what's happening right now, the Kazi team will just go off into the distance. And I didn't work so hard for so long to try to build a platform of service for our state. So that's where my stressor is. I'm like, I have to figure it out. And so whether I have to, like, but this is like one of those things, I guess, is being an agent in a changing market, right? How bad do you want to stay in the market? So what am I going to have to do right now to keep relevant and to close off all the loose ends of my team, right? Like, I'm going to talk to you about your accountability and Sherry knows, like, I have a tough time. Like, we've put so many different things out there to hold them accountable, and there's this giant platter of business that 5 or 6 of them are running to, and the other 8 are doing who knows what, right?
Yeah.
So, like, my last-ditch effort is to talk to you.
Yeah.
And just see what she has in place, right? Because we have to talk to each other, learn how we can solve other problems. Like, we're all going to have a really strong skill set in something, and then there's going to be other things that we don't know what to do, and if we just ask, I think we can get to the next level.
Yeah.
I'm going to need all that wording from your boards.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm serious. Could you just share that?
Vince, let me wrap up with this before I turn it over to you. One thing that I will say, as you see these leaders and these amazing businesses that they've built, did you not hear the undertone of that it's not even about them? When Lisa's talking about it, it's about the people that are a part of her team. When we're hearing those tones of that it's about the clients, focusing in on other people every single time is going to bring that opportunity back to you. So, hey, let's give this group a hand. This has been amazing. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Mike, that QR code, can you show that real quick? What kind of QR code is that? I can't remember what.
I think it's flow something, I don't know. Flow code, yeah. But you change the landing
flow
page
code.
all the time.
And so you'll send it out saying, like you said, free golf balls, free ice cream cone, or whatever they scan it for, but then you can change that to go to your website, or you can change that and say, we're having a client. You can send them a text, say, check your QR code, we now have a client appreciation party. So you can change that in so many ways, and now you've got it on this keychain, and say, save that, so anytime we have a client appreciation party or free giveaways, just scan that.
Yeah, and try to get them to share it, because if they share it with somebody and they click on it, then we got their information too.
Were you the one that said you had some tool called Funk something, or was that someone else?
No.
Okay, forget it. Melissa, I know, had to change her schedule because she was having a little bit of a meltdown over the weekend. We talked Sunday morning. She says, my lady that's taking care of all my business just quit on me. I don't know what to do. She changed it. She flew in last night. She's flying out tonight, so we switched on her panel. but you crack my ass up. The best tip, Chick-fil-A. Hire Chick-fil-A people, guys.
Good.
Your business will boom. Let's give them a big hand, guys. So what we're going to